I think the main reason that video games help us to learn is because of their interactivity. Think of the difference between a book and a movie. A book can only go so far, and it's up to the reader to add their imagination so that they can witness the story unfold. Movies, however, use sounds and visuals to truly immerse the viewer in the story. Video games go a step above this because not only does it display sights and sounds, but they also require someone to play the game and interact with it. Someone who's playing a video game has to make a decision and solve problems in order for the game to continue. Problem solving can come in all different forms in video games. For instance, a problem in one game might be taking your character through a maze with various puzzles. The player will have to use their observation and analytical skills to find out what all the pieces are to the puzzle and how they can solve it. Other forms of problem solving could include a boss fight. A boss fight in a video game occurs when the character you're playing has to fight an important enemy with a stronger level of difficulty. So, say for example, your character has to fight a giant scorpion that is much stronger than you. It has a series of 7 attacks, and you have to figure out how to maneuver and around these attacks and dodge them, all the while trying to defeat it in battle. The great thing about video games is you're given room to fail. So if you're fighting this boss, and it's the giant scorpion, it's okay that your killer character is killed off. You can come again and keep trying until you succeed. Through repetition, you gain experience and knowledge. You learn that it's okay to fail because you're learning how to succeed. Think of what Thomas Edison said about creating a light bulb. I have not failed, I have just found 10,000 ways that it won't work. Through repetition and adapting a method of how he was going to create the light bulb, he eventually was able to invent one that worked. One article I found called Action Video Game Playing is reflected in enhanced monitor performance and increased cortisol distractibility. They hypothesized that the repeated process of playing an action video game helps to improve a player's video monitor or hand-eye coordination abilities. Here is a short interview with Sean Carlson about video games. Do you think that video games help with hand-eye coordination, like playing shooting games like Mass Effect and whatnot?
Absolutely, and it's not just shooters. Studies have shown that gamers that don't play shooters, but they play shooters as well, make decisions quicker and have better hand-eye coordination through that. You never look at a gamer and look at them looking at the controller to see what buttons to press or when to press it. I mean, their attention is focused on the TV. And in shooting games, so to speak, we're just using them as an example, there's so much going on with your enemies, where they are, if they're shooting, when they're shooting, and your brain needs time to process that, but they process it quickly. And you need to be able to decide whether or not you're going to take cover, if you're going to move, depending on what the enemy movements, if they're trying to flank you, if you need to take cover and move somewhere else, or if you need to pop up and fire. So there's that in and of itself. So
Video games can even be seen as being useful in a learning environment. According to the article, Attitudes Towards and Effects of the Use of Video Games in the Classroom, there is an increasingly widespread evidence of the positive effects of video games on learning. Now, for any learning process, the students have to be engaged in the content. If children are falling asleep in class, they won't learn anything. Video games, as I said before, are interactive. When I was a kid learning how to type on the computer, we had to play a game online to help our typing skills. Letters would appear and we would have to type them within a certain time period. This was very engaging for me, and I was able to learn how to type through using this. The important thing about the use of video games in the classroom is that the teachers have to guide their students along the learning process. They shouldn't just give a game and then tell them to learn something. Instead, the teachers have to make links to what is happening during the game versus what is being learned in class. But once students make that connection, they will be able to retain the information they learned much easier. An article in Time magazine even talked about how video games can reduce depression. Jane McGonigal, a game designer and an author, stated that gaming is a neurological opposite of depression. When we play video games, we have a real sense of optimism in our abilities and our opportunities get to better succeed, and more physical and mental energy to engage with the difficult problems. McGonigal explained that this is actually the psychological state of game of play. Now, one final note, there is a myth that video games lead to violence, but that simply isn't true. Here's a short statement from Tyler Griffith on his opinion on the matter. Do you believe that video game violence leads to violence in real life?
I do not.
Why?
You see people playing some of the most popular titles every year. Titles such as Call of Duty, Halo, Grand Theft Auto. Except for rare occasions in the news, you don't see people going around and committing mass suicides or committing Grand Theft Auto themselves. I think people are able to separate their natural lives from their virtual lives. I just don't think that's an issue that many people deal with.
So as you can see, video games are a good means of learning. Because they are interactive, we become immersed and learn from the experiences that they have to offer. People learn by doing, and if done right, I believe that video games can even be used in a classroom setting. Video games can improve hand-eye coordination and increase depression. We need to put the idea that they cause violence behind us because video games are a proper means of learning through experience.